Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to explore the world of timeless, meaningful furniture design like you've never seen before. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros.
Hi, Business Bros. Today we have the privilege of speaking with the renowned furniture designer and visionary CEO and founder of Chronicle Home. In this episode, he's going to share his inspiring journey in furniture design, how Chronicle Home infuses love and care into every piece, and why their creations are more than just furniture. They're storytellers of family histories. So join us as we embark on this inspiring journey with the visionary behind Chronicle Home and discover the art of crafting furniture that carries memories, stories, and a deep sense of home. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Taylor Ross. All right, man. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here, especially in your class there.
That's right, man. That's right. We're here to have some fun, learn a little something here and there. So let's start off with the question I always ask at the beginning. Every entrepreneur who comes on the show is promoting something. They're here to market a product, service, or something that they want to get out into the world. So what is that for you?
Really, it's Chronicle Home Furniture, but it's the connection that I make. We've got a connection to some artisans all over the world. I'm sitting in Turkey right now and have lived in Mongolia and Russia. And I've got some access to some guys that other interior designers and architects would love to have access to, but they can't cross that divide. Grew up in New Mexico, raised and married in Arkansas, so been all over. And I'm a bridge, so I bridge things for architects and interior designers, and those things are usually projects back to those artisans who can't really be reached by these architects and interior designers if I wasn't there.
Dude, all over the world. So you get to see pieces, craft stuff, talk to people that may be designing things that we back here at home in the US have never seen or thought to even put in our homes. Who's your target audience then? I mean, somebody who's looking for a designer piece, that's got to be a specific type of individual or maybe business or place. What is that ideal audience that you're looking for?
Man, that's a laser question. That's good. It took us years to figure out who that was. She is an interior designer. She's 30 to 70. There's a huge range in age, but she's an interior designer, high-end, elite projects, usually working on her own, usually not working for a architectural firm, although we do. But that's our bullseye. That's who we serve. That's who we always think about. Like, what's their main problem? What are they trying to figure out? And how can we help it? How can we not be somebody in the chain that's like taking more energy, but trying to give more energy to them? So we started in New York City. We just launched. We didn't actually start our company there. We launched our line of furniture there. So that's where we got to know who she was. But it was a long process of like going to Aspen, Colorado, going to Miami, trying to find like who buys at the time. So what we started with was a wooden bathtub. And I was like, I built one in college. My best friend and I built it. I wanted to build a canoe, but I was too poor. I had 4 kids already, and I was in college. And so I was like, honey, can we build a bathtub like we build a canoe, and then we'll just use it? And she was like, yeah. So we entered that into a business plan competition. Am I answering your question? I think I am. So we entered that into a business plan competition, my buddy and I. We won some cash. Back then, let's see, it's 2001. We won like $5,000 cash. It was third prize. And we were so stoked. We thought we were going to buy cars and stuff. And in Arkansas back then, you could buy a car for $2,500 each.
All right, dude. I gotta pause you there, man, because I'll be honest. I gotta be 100% honest. When you said a bathtub made of wood, I
Yeah.
immediately went to like the Lego movie. You ever watch the Lego movie?
I just watched it like
Okay,
3 nights ago with my kids.
he's talking about the double decker couch. Like, who uses that? That's exactly what I thought of when you said a
That's
wooden bathtub.
that's
Did
a
it
good
work?
call. Yeah, that's
Did
a
it
good
work?
question.
Like water
Oh, it
fire
worked. Well,
leak?
so what? Yeah. Well, that's why we won the prize was we didn't do very well at building the business plan, but we built the tub. So we actually built the tub like you build a canoe, and it's got fiberglass layered in it and epoxy. If you go down to like a boat yard, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And we took it and like presented it to the judges, and the judges loved it, but they were like, "Man, you're not going to make thousands of these. Like this is a family business." And we're like, "Nah, man, we'll manufacture them by the hundreds." And we were wrong. We had no idea. We were, college freshmen. And so, anyway, I took it home and put it in my house and bathed 4 kids, and it's still there. It's still bathing people. I sold that house, went with the house. And then we started making them later. So,
All right.
but
So
yeah,
let me ask you about your education background, because obviously that was a college thing, right? I mean, you literally
yeah,
said you built that in your college thing, and then it's kind of a secondary. Well, first question is going to be like, tell me about that, about
okay,
what you did after high school, your educational journey. But secondary, I'm
okay.
kind of curious. Was the tub a selling point when you sold the house?
It was actually, yeah, yeah. The people that bought the house were kind of like semi fans. Like I'm not famous, but they loved the bathtub story, and it was overlooking like a valley, and it's in Arkansas, it's in the foothills, and the tub was in front of a window, so that was a big selling point. What was the second question? Oh, education.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I started early. I was at 16. I started building houses. I was just working for a guy, but he was really good at cabinetry, and so I loved wood. And I just started like kind of watching him, and he could tell I liked it, and so he started teaching me. And at the same time, I was kind of in a culture where everybody was going to college, and they were like, "You got to go to college. You got to go to college." And fell in love with this girl at age 19. No, I fell in love with her at 17. Married her at 19 while we were in college. And so I was like, man, I got to work. And so I was just building cabinets, building anything I could build to try to make money. Not making money, but thought I was. And then finally got graduated, and actually left it at that point. We were so in debt and so like stressed at the end of our like college graduation that I just went to work for a money management financial firm. Worked for 8 years on Wall Street, or for a Wall Street firm in Arkansas, managing money, and then eventually left that too. So, but the college years were hard, but good, I guess. I mean, we made it. We had kids during that time, and found out you didn't need a lot of money to live in college together. So that was a lie. Everybody was like, "No, you can't do that. You got to wait." And our parents trusted us, so we got married.
Hey man, everybody's gonna tell you what you can't do. It's easy to tell you what
That's
you
right.
can't do. It's difficult to prove to them that, you know what, I can do this. So you said you started selling some furniture, pretending to make some money. That's kind of, I guess, your venture into entrepreneurship. What was that like path like for you, becoming an entrepreneur? Like, I mean, you said you kind of thought you were making some money, but you kind of weren't. But at the same time, that kind of dipped your roots a little bit into, hey, I can do this on my own, right?
That's it. Yeah, I had my own tools. I failed a lot. I way underpriced myself a ton for years. Never could figure out what I was worth. Was always underpriced. And kind of had an ethic to not overcharge people, which just made me lose money. And then finally, probably failed at that enough times to be like, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. So the money management business was great. I was making money. I had a salary. I had commission. I was all commission eventually. And it was actually when we were overseas later where I was like, I wonder if we could make those bathtubs. Long, crazy story, actually. Yeah, I don't know if you want to go into it on this or not, but I got banned from Russia. I was arrested and questioned in Russia and got banned from Russia for 5 years. And so I was like literally on the border in Mongolia. My kids were still in Russia. And I was like, what do I do? And this brother-in-law of mine, who's an investor, he actually called and was like, hey, if not now, when are you going to do the bathtubs? It had been like 10 years. And he was like, let's just try it. So we tried it, started selling a few in Arkansas. And so that's back to your original question. Like, who's your customer? That was like, we just need to find whoever buys a wooden bathtub. So that customer ended up being the customer that when we figured out bathtubs were not a great business, we needed to build some chairs and sell to that same lady. So that's kind of how we got into the whole chair. Really, I love chairs. That's why I keep talking about chairs, but furniture business in the high end space.
Dude, so there's this guy named I don't even know his actual name, but he's a comedian and goes by The Machine. He has that whole crazy Russian story. And he didn't get banned from Russia, but you're over here trying to make wooden tubs and you get banned from Russia? How does that even work?
We still don't even know, man. My wife went and met with the secret police like 5 times while I was already out of the country. And finally she got this really high ranking guy. We don't know how high, but he had 3 stars on his shoulder in Russia that's high. And he was like, Mrs. Ross, this is not a democracy and your husband's not coming back. And so she was like, all right, I'll pack up the kids. And so we moved to Mongolia. We were like, do we go back to Arkansas or do we come all this way from that? Like, what do we want to do? So we just decided to try the business in Mongolia and eventually moved back to Arkansas to market the business.
All right, not figuring out what you're worth, what your value is actually pretty common amongst entrepreneurs, especially when they're in a service-based business or they're creating something on their own for a solopreneur. That's a big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, and you obviously overcame that. What are some other mistakes that you feel that you've made in business? And you said there was a ton, but there's some that really taught you a lesson that helped you get to where you are today.
Okay. Yeah, man. I've been kind of brushing up on some of your other content stuff too. So I know the kind of people that you've got are just, they're pioneers, they're driven, they're interested, they're entrepreneurs. So I think that's a great question. I guess we were launching this line of furniture. This is the biggest mistake maybe I've ever made in business. And we got some money, we got some investment money, and we needed to get the line of furniture built and get it to New York City. And it was hilarious too. We drove a Ryder truck to New York City and showed it on the Javits Center on the river. And man, that was a period of time, I'm going to guess is about 5 or 6 months where I just really treated some people terribly because of the prestige and the stuff that I thought was coming. It kind of all went to my head, and I really ruined some friendships during that time because of money, because of the business. And that was really a terrible move. Thankful that those relationships are redeemed now and we're friends. But at the time, like for about a year, it was hard. I was just really pushing and trying to get production. And so it was the other end of not knowing what you're like. Thought I was worth way too much. Thought I was everything. Thought I could do everything. Couldn't do everything. All came crashing down. Ran out of money about 6 months in. Weren't supposed to run out of money for a year. And was just real angry. A consultant stole some money from us. I'll say it that way. If he listens to this, he may be like, no, I didn't. But either way, my dad was in agreement with me. He's like, man, I think you got wronged on this. But he was the one that confronted me about 3 months into it. And was like, hey, even though you got wronged on this, you hate some people right now. And it's going to, later, you're not going to be able to sleep. It's going to ruin you. So you can deal with that now. He was real hands. He was like, you can deal with that now or you can deal with it later, but you're going to have to deal with it because it's going to eat you. And I realized he was right. And so I wrote the guy, the main guy that I hated so much, I wrote him a thank you letter. And there was nothing in it. I even let my dad read it. It was like, is there any hook in here? Is there any manipulation, anything in here that you think sounds like, thank you, but? And he's like, nope, that it looks good. So I sent it off to him just for me, man, just as a way to all right, it's done. It's forgiven. Let's just move on. But that 6 months, man, I really screwed some stuff, and we ran out of money, and I ended up having to decide, are we going to keep going with this? We don't even have a business. We don't have any orders, and I did all this, and so I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what's not important, and then kind of rearranged priorities and started again.
Now, if you could go back, like I told you, you got a lot of 17-year-old kids here. They're going to go through that same thing, right? Right now, they're at the age of they know it all. Then they get to the age where they're going to be completely broke trying to figure it out. And maybe they do come across that time frame where they're once again on top and they overvalue themselves. But if you can go back and give yourself some advice or give advice to an entrepreneur who's getting started today, what would that be?
That's good. Man, we all have different learning styles. That's for sure. I learned that. I have 6 kids and just started studying their their ways of learning. We did some homeschool through the years, did some public school, did some other things, but teaching them in Turkey right now, teaching them foreign languages. If you get to know yourself a little bit, it really helps. Like for me, I got to do stuff wrong like 2 or 3 times to figure out the way you do it right. And when I figured that out, it was kind of like a stress reliever. I was like, oh, no wonder I got kicked out of countries and stuff. I probably could have listened to somebody more, So knowing that about yourself as you go along, there's a few people in your life that probably like love you a lot, and they will tell you the truth about that stuff. And it'll kind of help you not take yourself so seriously as you make those mistakes, because mistakes they're not a problem. It's just how you handle them. Like, are you gonna try again, or are you gonna learn from it, do it again? Or so perfectionists are. I don't know what perfectionists' life are like, because I've never been that. I've always been the guy that just did it wrong and did it again, and that kind of got me in trouble a lot. But perfectionists have a whole nother. So both of those kind of get solved by just knowing yourself and asking some people like, why am I running into the same wall over and over again? Like, do I need to know something? Like somebody like you, maybe. Like if you ever turn into a mentor for one of those kids, go ask him what you're doing wrong. Go ask him why this is not turning out right. Because I had that. I had actually a principal. He was just, we could all tell he was telling us the truth. And we had this little boys class within boys. Actually, at the time, it was a boys Bible class that we took with. It was kind of dorky, but at the time, he just was honest with us, and so we could tell. And so he was one of the ones that was like, "Hey, it seems like you like every girl in the class that's not." He had some really hard things to say to me that I was like, "No, I don't. Like, I'm not trying to steal girls from guys." And but I remembered that for 20 years. Like, oh man, maybe I am a little bit greedy with like stuff I want. So I would say that's kind of hard when you're a teenager, or even when you're just an egotistical 30-year-old to listen to advice. But I would go back and listen to advice.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get called on what you're thinking or what your actions are saying, because even though you might not admit that that's the way you were, that's exactly what's being portrayed. And speaking of making mistakes, you're a carpenter, dude. You're supposed to measure twice and cut once. What happened?
That's right. I don't know. I mean, I'm measuring. Yeah, I'm cutting first and then measuring 2 more times usually. I don't know. I have learned that in some way. Like, you can grow. You don't have to just hang out in your dysfunction. So I am learning to, like, right now I'm not a finisher, and I'm trying to surround myself with people who are finishers and not just do it, wrong again. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. I need to check more before I leap.
Hey man, you got 6 kids. I commend you for that already. That's
thanks.
That's an example. I mean, all right, I got 30 plus in a classroom, but I get to send them home with mom and dad. You got them 24/7. They're there with you, homeschooled and all. So let me ask you, man. I mean, you've made a lot of mistakes, but you also learned a lot of lessons. You're in a position now where you had a lot of experience. What is it that you feel your company does best? Like, I mean, you can get furniture pieces all over the place, even ones from all over the world today, where, you get stuff shipped to your home all over the place, but there's a reason why customers come to you. What is that?
Yeah. Well, something we use internally is you won't find it on any of our marketing stuff, is we're making wisdom known. So we're wanting our pieces not necessarily to be the fanciest or, whatever. We're just wanting them to be really wise. And I have measurements for that. I have all kinds of metrics that I think but really from an identity level, I'm a bridge. I believe identity informs doing, rather than the other way around. And so as I'm looking, what I do to answer your question is I bring these. I've got a guy here in Turkey that I just met. They make the most incredible particular chair that I've ever seen. I can't do it. He's a better carpenter than me. The guy that I trained to build bathtubs in Mongolia became a better bathtub builder than me. I walked in one day. I was like, why am I even trying to build these? This guy's so awesome. But I also realized, like, he will never have access to the sales that I have access to, just enjoying going to High Point, North Carolina, going to New York City, Miami. I was in Aspen, Colorado. They'll never be able to stand there with a bathtub and be like, this should be $20,000. Like, it should command that. And so I just started following these interior designers around a few years ago and asking them, like, what's it? And what I found out was, when the economy crashed in 2008, the housing crisis hit, the showrooms were empty. All the showrooms in High Point, North Carolina were empty. The showrooms in Dallas were empty. And it was because the money that was still buying furniture was still buying furniture, but they weren't buying what everybody else had. They were buying what they wanted. They were buying custom. And I found a sales rep that told me during that period of time, his sales didn't fall any. They fell like 10%. And the industry sales, like in showrooms, fell 80%, some of the showrooms. And so I started asking, I just had him at lunch. I was like, what did you do? Like, how did you figure that out? And he was like, well, I just knew, like, when, and he listed, I think it was one of the president's daughters wanted a chair. Like, she was going to buy that chair. It didn't matter if it was in a showroom or if she got a guy to make it. And so I just started pushing manufacturers to make whatever she wanted. I would just go walk in with the order and be like, you want this order or not? Like, she really wants it. And so I learned from that interior designers have these projects that nobody wants to do. They can't find anybody to do it. They can't really trust a local like cabinet guy to it because the cabinet guy's making cabinets. He's not making furniture. But they don't know how to get into this shop where these guys are who are amazing, like the guy I found in Turkey. And so I bridge that. So I'll go to Abu Dhabi next in February to a big show of architects, and I'll sit in front of them, and I'll be like, and they'll have a project, and the project will be a $3 million something, maybe the interior of a hotel or something. And I'll be able to tell them I've got somebody that can do that project, and it'll be a project. They're like, you don't want this, do you? Like, they're almost like wincing, like, we know that no one wants this. And I had an industry insider tell me years ago, he's like, if you'll do those, then you'll get the other ones you want. If you'll do the ones that are custom that nobody wants, you're probably not going to make money on, then eventually they'll order off your line after they see that you're serving them. You're actually adding value to their life. And I was like, sweet. Okay. Our mix is still like in a year, 40 to 60% custom, depending on the year. And then the rest is off of our line as far as sales goes.
That's pretty gnarly, though. You get to travel the world,
I do.
not only for design concepts, but literally for sales. Because a lot of these places, I mean, Dubai is one of those places where they're putting up things like crazy. Vegas is one of those places where they build stuff like crazy. And they're always changing, always doing these custom things. And you always go into those places and look at the pieces like, wow, where did that come from? And now, I literally get to talk to the guy who's saying, yeah, me. I'm the one who took on that challenge and got it done. That's pretty cool.
I love it.
Okay, you got good at the wooden bathtub. You got good at creating some custom pieces. Where do you feel your company is trying to improve upon, make more efficient, struggling with? Because I feel like there's always something that we're trying to improve upon, right? Like, my right bicep's cool. Got to work on the left bicep.
Yeah.
What is that for you?
That's good. Finishing. Yeah. Finishing. I'm real. I've never finished anything in my life. Somebody said about me recently. I start things. So I have some pretty strong finishers around me in my family, but also in our team. But that's still an issue. It's still like, man, how do we follow up with that? I think if we follow up with half the people we've done stuff with, we'd have more orders. Like we'd have more of the same revenue that we like. We know which orders we like now, and it's nice. Like we don't take anything now that's outside that. We still want to serve people. I'm not saying that, but there's certain orders that are just like, we can't even do it. We don't even know the people that do that. So we've gotten better at that. We've honed that, but we haven't gotten that to where we can really follow up on. We don't have the systems built. We don't have a huge team. We're a very boutique. Like I only have, for my bridging function, I only have like 3 to 5 people at any given time helping me. And some of those are full-time. Some of those are part-time, depending on what the project load looks like. And when we don't have projects, we'll just shut everything down and say, hey, you guys have other income sources. Some of them are foreign nationals who have their own business in the country. So they can go, okay, we're just going to go make doors. We're going to go make, stairs, whatever. And we speak the languages in several of those countries. And so it's easy to just get on a video call and be like, hey man, you got space? Like, can you make 10 of these? And we have to video conference that in a little bit, but that is tough. It's tough being a bridge because we are so spread out for a small company, and the revenue structure is like, oh my gosh, we need to be in front of these right people that are in, High Point, North Carolina, and probably 2 or 3 other shows a year in America and overseas. And how do we do that and still make the stuff well and high quality control on the floor of the shops? And that's a struggle. We keep spread out and we try to hire the right people locally. In fact, in Mongolia, we had the bathtub thing kind of failed. So, and part of the failure was me just going, "Hey guys, it's over. I'm sorry, the revenue's not coming in Mongolia. We're closing the doors." And the guys kind of were like unfazed by it. I was just devastated. And they were like, "Can we buy the machines like at a discount or something?" I was like, "Sure, on credit if you want. Here, just sign the papers, and if you pay me, I hope you pay me. But if you don't, that's fine." So then I went back home to America and started marketing other furniture, and the business turned into these two different family businesses that are now still what do you call it? They're sustaining themselves inside the country on local. One's like a stair maker, and the other one is a door manufacturer, bed manufacturer, and they're not huge companies, but they're supporting those families that we initially employed. So that helps to go back to those guys and be like, "Are we still friends?" And then be like, "Man, you gave us like you taught us a trade." And we were sitting here with one of them was a teacher, like a licensed Mongolian language teacher. The other one was a mathematician. Neither one of them had work in Mongolia, and I was like, "I'll teach you to carve some stuff." So it works out in a way where I don't have to own those shops, but they're definitely ours. Like we're working together on almost every project.
Yeah, it gives you that flexibility to build a company, and again, like when it's not working, you're able to close it down.
That's right.
Those are huge upswings and downswings, especially when the market changes like that. I mean, in the U.S., we're going through inflationary periods. Talking about 2008, we had COVID, like all kinds of different issues, and to be able to contract and expand that way is huge. Where do you see the vision of your company going here in the near future?
That's a good question. Well, this next year is kind of an experiment in Turkey, and we've got some things we do under the surface socially wherever we go. So we're doing some of that, but we hope that what we're doing, marketing in the Middle East, and then doing what we're doing in Turkey, grows into orders in America. And that's the big trick: is how do we America, Western Europe, how do we keep those orders coming? And then I want to control the dryness of my wood. I just like controlling the dryness of the lumber. And it's hard to do. And everybody who ever sold me lumber tells me it's dry. I mean, that's in their best interest to tell me it's dry. And and that's the main quality factor in lumber. And it's not a big operation. I just want to have one kiln somewhere where I can ship lumber there and say, "Hey, you guys have this dry in 2 weeks." It's a special kind of kiln that I want. It's called a vacuum press kiln. And so that's the big deal for me this year, is just to be able to like stay small, stay lean. Like, for example, a few years ago when things got really tough, orders shut down, suddenly I got all these exterior door projects because I was the wooden bathtub guy. These interior designers started calling me like, "Can you do this freaking huge, wonderful wooden exterior door that's exposed to the sunlight? Nobody wants to touch it." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what a boat is. It's exposed to the sunlight and have to figure out water." And so I started that kind of filled the gap. So that kind of thing just tends to happen to me. I don't know why it happens to me. It just happens to me. It's awesome. But as that happens, if we can have something like a wood drying operation going on, I think we'll be much more prepared when stuff does pick up every time.
It's because that $5,000 award in college keeps paying dividends over and over and over again. That's why. That's why. All right, man. Taylor, if anybody wants to reach out, man, they want to find out about the pieces you have, maybe a custom piece here and there, how can they do that?
There's two ways. This sounds funny, but I like email, Taylor@thechroniclehome.com. That may be up there. Yeah, there's that one. You can reach me on Instagram and through my website. But I also still respond, especially to my phone number, since it's only linked to WhatsApp when I'm here in Turkey. So my US number, I didn't give that to you, but that's 501-827-4813. Literally, you can text me on WhatsApp, and if I'm awake, I'll answer that. But those first two are the best ways because we can actually communicate professionally. My son Cheney, one initial thing we do for interior designers is whatever we draw for you in CAD for as far as a furniture project goes will be free unless we win the business. If we win the business, we'll back charge you for all the work we did for drawing that thing. So if it helps you win the furniture award in whatever project you're working on, then hopefully we get to work together. If not, great. That's some work we took off your plate. We drew it for you. So that's through emails how we usually get in touch with each other.
All right, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're in the market for a wooden bathtub. That's definitely something that Taylor and his team can help you with. But if not, I mean, the custom pieces are just absolutely amazing. Make sure you guys check out his website, thechroniclehome.com, thechroniclehome.com. Taylor, thank you very much for being on the program today. You've been on hopefully you've been on a bunch of different podcasts, and if not, I got if so, I got a personal question for you.
Okay.
What was your experience like being on today's program?
Oh man, I was surprised I was going to be in a classroom. I really enjoyed that. Having that picture of who's listening. I love the youth anyway. Just my kids are all high school age, and some of them are married now. But man, also you're pretty geared toward your audience. Like you really, I had one podcast one time that was like, I'm not sure exactly what we talked about, because I knew her audience, but I wasn't sure exactly what we were doing. And this one was very much more focused toward the entrepreneur, toward, hey, if I'm wanting to start something on my own, not necessarily focused on my furniture. And I really appreciate that. I feel like that was adding value to people's lives.
Hey man, the story kind of is the big thing. I think everybody's going to have their entrepreneurial journey, but sometimes you got to hear that not everybody has a win right off the bat. And even the ones that do, they hit some bigger losses along the way. True. Because in my opinion, success is a poor teacher. It's actually the failures that kind of teach us what we really need to know. So thank you very much for coming on the show, sharing your story, and I wish you the best of luck in your business. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz